and the man of science should remove the wall before him. There is only one wall in between, and there will be a big hall when the wall is removed, and in the laboratory of that hall we will get these questions answered. And when once answered, the answers will be like this. 1. What is matter? The definition is the equilibrium of a stream of units of force. An equilibrium of a stream of units of force. This is like the river you see. If you stand by the side of the river and say this is the river, where is the river when the water is flowing away? To which part of the water you are showing and naming it river? You are including the dynamic state of water also along with other things by naming it the river. Because by the time you show the river with your hand and say river, the water which you have shown already flown into the ocean. Yet you are not wrong in saying this is the river, because the river exists in the dynamic state, not a static state. Just as you are right in saying that this is the earth and this is a piece of chalk. When the atoms in the piece of chalk are escaping and entering into the piece of chalk and dancing with a tremendous speed, when no particle of the chalk is at rest or stable, you are holding the piece of chalk in your hands and utilizing the chalk piece for your own required purposes. So there are two different facts. One is, in itself there is no piece of chalk in it. There are only millions and millions of atoms and electrons very busy and going around speedily. That is half of the truth. The other half is, you have the piece of chalk in your hand. You are using it for your purposes and you are writing on the board whatever you want to write. The two parts put together form the one unit of truth. This is how we are going to understand matter. Matter is the equilibrium of a stream of units of force. Just as what we call river is nothing but the flowing state of millions and millions of drops of water. Yet we are swimming in the water and we are taking bath. We are drinking water. We can't deny that these are facts. That is how we are going to understand matter in the future. There is one sentence in the scriptures about the definition of matter. It is as follows. Matter is how it appears and not what it is. So when translated it is like this. Matter is how it appears and not what it is there. For example, this appears like a chalk piece to you. That is the definition of matter. But what there is not chalk piece, but a bundle of atoms and the counterparts. This is, and this should be the definition of matter. What is it made up of? What are the counterparts of the atom made up of? They are made up of packets or houses where millions and millions of beings exist and do their work. Just as we have our own houses, these beings, intelligences, are having their own houses built and constructed every day, and those houses are what we call the electrons and the protons. And they have their own center of their town or village or city, which we call the nucleus of the atom. They have their own professions, their own education, everything there, their own duties conducted. This is how we are going to understand the atom in the 21st century. And these beings who are working there, they are called devas in the ancient scriptures. And mainly they are of two types. The solar devas and the lunar devas. The solar devas are units of electric charge, and the lunar devas are lines of force that produce magnetism. Solar does not mean those coming from our sun globe, but it means those who are composing and making our sun globe. So they pre-exist the sun globe of any solar system. They work out the fabric of the sun globe. Therefore, they are called solar devas. The lunar devas does not mean those who live in the moon, but those who produce an activity called lunar activity. In Sanskrit, the solar devas are called simply devas, and the lunar devas are called Pitris. Here, again, there are many subgroups. For example, there are one group called Agnishvatas. That is, those who have extinguished their fires. That is the meaning. They have no kitchen. They have taken away the fire from their kitchens. Just we will see what they mean. The other are called Parihishas. Those who have spread flames and who are sitting upon flames and enjoying. You can know something of these devas in the secret doctrine of Blavatsky, and also the treatise on cosmic fire by the Tibetan master. Yeah. I hope most of you are really conversant with all these things, because as I understand, you are studying the books of the Tibetan for a very long time and speaking about devas at least 10 times in a day, and very easily having at your beck and call the higher mental and the buddhic planes, daily traveling directly to the paranirvanic plane and then back to Geneva, and using all the terms used by the Tibetan very cheaply on the street. So I strongly believe that you are all very much well versed and conversant with all these devas. You may be knowing personally also some of these devas. Those who have extinguished their fires are those whom we call the inorganic or the non-metabolic substance makers. And those who sit on the flames wonderfully, they are those who are dwelling in the organic substance or the metabolic bodies. For example, there is phosphorus in the bottle in the laboratory or the chemistry laboratory. There is phosphorus in my teeth and bones also. What is the difference between the phosphorus in the chemistry laboratory and the phosphorus in my nails and teeth? There is iron in the tools around us, but there is iron also in the hemoglobin of our blood. What is the difference? The iron in your blood can be called Mr. Iron, because he responds, he flows, and he makes you live. Every moment he conducts the respiration and takes in the oxygen you take into the lungs. So the units of intelligences that are existing in the iron in your blood, they are the houses where the fellows on the flames live. And if you take the molecules and the atoms of the iron that is there in the tools, which we call the non-living out of sheer ignorance. Unfortunately, even we, the biological professors, sometimes say living, non-living. But they are inorganic but not non-living. The fellows that are living in the units of the inorganic iron substance, they are those groups that have extinguished their fires and sitting idly. So we have two states in the atoms of the same substance, the inorganic state and the organic state. The degree of awakening is different in both. Organic iron is having more awakened beings working than the inorganic iron atoms. When we take iron through our food into our body, or some tonic which contains iron, then these devas are awakened from that state to this state. And it is your biological kingdom that makes them awake. And then they begin to work as the friends sitting on flames. Then what is mind finally? It is defined as this. there is a brick or there is a body like this. If you place two bricks together, it is one unit of two bricks there, whether well arranged or ill arranged. If it is well arranged, it is a well arranged unit. Like that, if you arrange bricks in thousands and 10,000s, you cannot call it 10,000 bricks, but you call it one house. What's the difference? In the second case, it is the combination which you call it by singular number. In the first case, it is the unit. What is the difference between a bundle of bricks and a house? The difference is what we understand as mind in us. We take a little coffee in a tumbler, and then some sugar, and then some milk. We don't have the three in the cup, but we have the one which is a combination of these three. A fellow like Krishnamacharya prefers to drink after it is mixed. That doesn't mean if you give just black coffee, he drinks, and then give some sugar, he eats, and then some dule, he drinks. It's awful. If you mix up, it is splendid to him. Then what is it that is the substance? Is it new or the old? It is a new combination with old units. What we call mind is nothing but such a combination. When certain units are arranged in a particular manner, there is a circuit completed, and there is a current flowing through the units, which we do not find previously. You will find it when you assemble an electromagnetic unit. No part of the unit contains electricity in its potential, in its dynamic form. But when linked up, you will feel the existence of electricity. Similarly, when matter is arranged in a particular fashion, there is something flowing through it because of the arrangement. And that's something which was not flowing previously before they were arranged. And that is what we call mind. It is like a surface tension. Or it is like the shape of a tent when you have, after you have erected a tent. Previously, the cloth was not having the shape of the tent. Or no part of the tool was having the shape of the tent. But the result of your arrangement is what you call tent. When once fixed up, you can use according to your own program. So when the mind is once made manifest by the devas, you are there. Previously you were not there. The units were there. The devas were there cooking in the kitchen. Where were you? You were sleeping. After the cooking is finished, they came to you and said everything is ready, get up. So the resultant electronic phenomena is what we call mind. And what is buddhi? If you arrange the units of matter in you properly, that is, the bricks in your house, if you arrange in a beautiful way, the house is bound to be beautiful and more useful. And then the resultant, which we call mind, is made manifest. And then you begin to arrange things in the house. This is my living room. This is the room for guests. This is the sleeping room. Here is the kitchen, and adjacent to it, here is the toilet. So there is an arrangement made. Was it a permanent value that this was a living room? No. After you began to exist, you made it the living room. Then you made a tumbler out of glass, and you have programmed to use it for water and some drinking purpose. Previously the purpose was not there, but here the purpose is manifest by your mind. And when you have produced the purpose of something, you will be able to form a procedure which is correct. And the dimension of mind which formed the procedure is afterwards called buddhi by you. But you cannot construct buddhi with mind, because All the while you are traveling like the shadow of a bird which is approaching the surface of a lake. The shadow is approaching the surface from the bottom. See how wonderfully the bird sees something coming up from the water, its own image. Sometimes the bird is mistaken to know that there is a fish coming up. Suddenly it tries to catch the fish. Similarly, here you are approaching the truth of your existence, not because of your intelligence, but because of the virtue of the law of evolution that is benevolently working through you in your mind. It makes you understand what is good and what is bad, what is painful and what is pleasurable, and finally what is desirable and what is not desirable. Then you will be able to reach the surface of what you call the buddhic plane. Immediately there is a reverse of the wheel, an inversion of the whole phenomenon. You will find yourself above water. All these days not ascending but descending. So when you discover that you are descending into matter and mind like this, then your existence is called the soul or soul consciousness. Previously, when you were believing that you are evolving from downwards, above, making your own attempts to make yourself better, you were dwelling in the mental and the intellectual planes. Suddenly you will discover one day that this is all a game accepted previously by the total yourself to play as the unit yourself or individual. It is a play of the water or the river that has entered into a vessel that is immersed in the river. When the river discovers itself in the vessel, it is called the soul state of existence or soul consciousness. But when the water discovers itself only in the vessel, it is called the existence of the individuality and the personality. And in those stages, your degree of illumination is called the mind and the buddhi. When your illumination is all existing, that is omnipresent, as the river exists in the vessel, and then you call it the soul consciousness. Until then, these capsules help you. The houses where the millions and millions of intelligences are living, and those units which we are calling the electrons. This, in short, is how we are going to view the whole thing in the next century. This is how the masters of wisdom taught us in the 19th and 20th centuries. And this is how the ancient seers of the scriptures understood the thing and explained us in the scriptures. One is pulsation, the other is radiation, and the third is locomotion or displacement. When matter is produced, it is called locomotion or displacement. When there is only force and consciousness working, the phenomenon is called radiation, which we called the light before it became fire. Pulsation is the fundamental law which existed before these two laws came into existence. And after these three laws are formed, there is the formation of the subordinate law of vibration. That is, from the state of the ion or the highest illumination, electrons descend into the matter state, just as water becomes ice block. And higher rate of vibration of electrons begin to dwell or exist in the matter units, and the result is we live in our bodies of matter, and the matter units become densest without any degree of self-illumination at all. They go into a state of subjectivity or sleep, which we call the atoms of the most inert substances in the earth. And again they begin to evolve, get awakened gradually. Following the law of evolution, they travel through the stages of the mineral kingdom, plant kingdom and animal kingdom and come to the human kingdom which exists somewhere here. And then again into the Deva kingdom. When they reach once again the highest degree of illumination. This is called the law of vibration. According to this law, we take bodies and grow with age, assimilate matter in the form of food and drink, float into our full size, and then there is a turning point at some age which differs from person to person, not according to his individual taste or health, but according to the purpose fixed up by nature for that particular birth of that particular individual. When the purpose is served, or when it is discovered by nature that the purpose cannot be served in this body, when nature discovers that this particular birth is a failure, right, then immediately the turning point takes place even premature. And then even though we eat the same food, we are not benefited as we were in childhood. Even though we take the same medicines as we were taking in our childhood, we do not regain our health at all. It is a period of gradual decadence. From time to time, we do some medical service to the body for our own satisfaction, but the degree of efficiency of the vehicle is going down and it can never be pulled up. When the birth is a success, the descending arc or the efficiency lives for a very long time up till the old age. But if the purpose is a failure, the fellow has to live with broken down health since his middle age or even earlier. So a higher law governs, which is the law of vibration. And again, when we reach this point of the arc, we are forced to leave the body and just live with the space in which we are. That is what we call death. So these laws exist everywhere and they apply upon us every moment. Of course, there are many laws in space. These are only some examples. There is an inevitable gap in the evolution of the present humanity, and until that gap is filled, and until we reach the maturity required, the block is there before us. As long as we like competition and war and strife and politics and sectarianism, and as long as we remember how we are different from others, we are immature. And nature never imparts her secrets until we are mature. So it is the law of evolution that prevents us and keeps the block before us. Though there are people who are much ahead in evolution, like Albert Einstein, etc. That is the inevitable cause of the block, humanity. And nature protects humanity by placing a block before the eyes of humanity when it is not mature. That's why we are having the block, though Albert Einstein has given the truths long before.